Maria Rasputin, the daughter of the infamous Russian mystic Grigori Rasputin, lived a life filled with extraordinary events, resilience, and reinvention. Born Matryona Grigorievna Rasputina in 1898 in the Siberian village of Pokrovskoye, she was raised in a simple peasant household, far from the grandeur and intrigue that would later define her father's world. Despite their humble origins, the Rasputin family's fate changed dramatically when her father became a trusted advisor to the Russian imperial family. Grigori Rasputin, a self-proclaimed holy man and mystic, had an uncanny ability to influence people, particularly the deeply religious Tsarina Alexandra. He gained her trust by seemingly easing the suffering of her hemophiliac son, Tsarevich Alexei. Rasputin's presence at court, however, was not welcomed by the nobility and political elite, who saw him as a dangerous interloper. He was accused of debauchery, manipulation, and interfering in state affairs, leading to a growing conspiracy against him. These tensions culminated in his dramatic assassination in 1916 by a group of nobles who believed his death would save the Russian monarchy. For Maria, her father's brutal murder was a turning point that shattered her world. In later years, she often recalled how Rasputin had predicted his own death and warned the Romanovs that their dynasty would collapse if he was killed. His prophecy seemed eerily accurate. Barely a year later, the Russian Revolution erupted, leading to the abdication of Tsar Nicholas II and the eventual execution of the entire imperial family. In the chaotic aftermath of the revolution, Maria and her family found themselves in grave danger. As the daughter of the man many blamed for Russia's downfall, she was not safe in the new Bolshevik regime. She and her mother, Praskovia, along with her siblings, were placed under house arrest by the revolutionaries. While many of Rasputin's supporters were arrested or executed, Maria managed to escape the worst of the purges. Eventually, she fled Russia, embarking on a journey that would take her across Europe and eventually to the United States. Maria's early years in exile were difficult. She initially settled in Romania before moving to France, where she struggled to support herself. The name Rasputin was both a curse and a strange form of currency. It made her infamous, yet it also attracted curiosity and opportunities. In Paris, Maria attempted to reinvent herself as a performer. She found work as a cabaret dancer, appearing in nightclubs under the stage name Maria Rasputin. She capitalized on her father's notoriety, but at the same time, she tried to reshape the public's perception of him. Maria was not content with a life of obscurity. In the 1920s, she moved to Germany, where she married a white Russian officer named Boris Solovyev. Together, they had 2 daughters, though life as an émigré was challenging. Solovyev, like many white Russians, struggled to find stable employment, and the family often faced financial hardship. By the late 1920s, Maria was once again forced to seek new opportunities to survive. One of the most unexpected chapters of her life began when she immigrated to the United States. By the 1930s, Maria had reinvented herself as an animal trainer in the circus. She joined the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, where she worked closely with big cats such as lions and tigers. The daughter of Russia's most infamous mystic had now become a circus performer, dazzling audiences with her fearlessness and exotic backstory. Her act was marketed with dramatic flair. Posters would announce her as the daughter of the Mad Monk or the Princess of Siberia. Despite her unusual career path, Maria's life in the circus was far from glamorous. Training wild animals was a dangerous profession, and in 1935, she suffered a serious attack by a lion during a performance. The injuries left her permanently scarred, and she pursued legal action against the circus, ultimately winning a settlement. This episode revealed Maria's resilience. She was not just the daughter of a historical figure, but a fighter who could stand up for herself in difficult circumstances. Throughout her life, Maria remained fiercely protective of her father's legacy. She wrote several books in which she portrayed Rasputin as a deeply spiritual man who was misunderstood by history. She refuted the many lurid tales of his debauchery and instead presented him as a healer, a man of the people who had been unfairly maligned by the aristocracy and political enemies. While some historians dismissed her accounts as biased, her writings remain an important part of the ongoing debate about Rasputin's true nature. By the 1940s, Maria had settled in Los Angeles, where she continued to write and occasionally gave interviews about her father. She lived a relatively modest life, working as a riveter in a California shipyard during World War II. Despite her past brushes with fame and danger, she eventually faded into relative obscurity, though she never stopped defending Rasputin's name. Even in her later years, Maria remained an enigmatic figure. She was often described as warm and intelligent, yet also deeply stubborn and proud. She never completely escaped the shadow of her father, but in many ways, she carved out her own legacy as a survivor. Unlike Rasputin, whose life ended in violence, Maria outlived the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union's rise, and even the Cold War. She witnessed nearly a century of change, moving from imperial palaces to war-torn Europe, from circus tents to Hollywood, and finally to a quiet life in California. Maria Rasputin passed away in 1977 at the age of 79. Her extraordinary life was a testament to survival, adaptation, and resilience. While she was never able to fully reshape her father's legend, she ensured that his story, and her own, would not be forgotten. Today, she remains a fascinating historical figure, a woman who lived in the shadow of a mystic but who ultimately proved to be just as remarkable in her own right.